Yeah, thank you very much. The presentation will be in English, but of course, questions in German as well. That's okay. I'm Gent. I'm the CTO of cognitx.ai. It's an AI startup, actually based here in Darmstadt, at TU Darmstadt, supported by Professor Buxman's lab. What is our mission? Our mission is giving enterprise data a voice by using artificial intelligence to make data analysis easy to use, to make it grasp it from everybody, and to make it basically accessible, democratizing data analytics. And we do this by giving enterprise data a voice, by making data analysis conversational. And what's the problem we are solving? We are drawn into data. Huge amounts of data get generated every day. It will reach in next year like 181 zettabytes. It's an insane amount of data generated by enterprises. So we are drawn into data, but yet we are starved for insights, because statistically, only less than 5% of this data is uncovered, is used to make better and smarter business decisions. But why is that? That's because we have a very tedious journey from data to insights. So what's happening in enterprises nowadays? As soon as the data land in the company, or as soon as they are generated, the data teams start immediately working with the data, start like cleaning the data, start processing the data, extracting insights, doing feature engineering, and so on, in order to produce so-called dashboards or visualizations, which will then be consumed by business users. And when business users need something new, something else, they still ask the data teams, hey, I want this insight to be extracted. And the data teams start over again, working with the data, extracting insights, plotting those in dashboards to be consumed again by business people, business users, because in the end, the purpose of insights is making better business decisions, right? So this is an insane amount of additional work. It's in an endless loop, and it poses also communication issues, because business people speak another language and data scientists, technical people speak another language. This is basically, it's not the right way of doing it. So how do we want to solve this problem? And the solution is talking to the data. So using our advanced AI means that we have nowadays to enable everybody in the enterprise to right away ask questions in plain natural language to data in order to uncover data insights and then make better decisions, basically. So what we do at Cognitx, we are bringing data analysis to another level by introducing augmented data analytics, which is basically chatting with your data through natural language in English or German. You can ask questions. You can receive immediate responses in your language, in German, like what's the sales this month? What's the projection for the next quarter? How much should I invest in my next marketing campaigns to achieve XYZ target? So these questions you can ask right away to Cognitx, and you get responses. So Cognitx comes with two UIs. One is the so-called self-service console that we have built. We provide an ecosystem of data connectors that Cognitx can connect to enterprise data sources like databases, data warehouses, data lakes, and so on. And we provide the mainstream connectors, basically, to like MySQL, Postgres, and so on. And then once you connect to your enterprise data source, you build the so-called topics or collections, which means you are like directing our AI system on on the actual data that you want from this data source. You give permissions to your data, like who can access what or who can ask what data. And next, you start talking to your data, like using natural language. You use English, or you can use German, by text or voice, and you get instant data insights. Like in this case, I'm asking, what's my sales? What's the sales in Europe this month? I get an instant response. And I want to compare now sales in Europe with sales in the US. And I get another response, and I get also visualizations like generated on the fly. Well, I think here we have also like tech enthusiasts potentially, and the question might be, how do we do this? What's your tech stack, so to say? And we have, like roughly speaking, we have this tech stack starting from the data sources. We have, as I mentioned, provided or built a wide range of data connectors that you can use out of the box for your enterprise data sources. Like we have provide almost all enterprise connectors basically for every data source. And then we have the data ingestion layer. And this is very important. It's like a proprietary solution, because data, as you all know, have different formats. Some data are tabular, are structured data, relational data. Some are semi-structured, I don't know, like JSON objects and so on. Some are basically completely unstructured data, might be text data from PDFs and so on. And we need a unified ingestion layer for that, so that all the data with all the formats can be accessed at the same way, right? So we have built this layer, composed this like so-called knowledge graph layer that ingests all the data. And then comes the decision layer, basically, which provides machine learning algorithms on top of the ingestion layer to make like decisions, to find which data should be activated for what question, right? And on top, we provide, we use transformers for the natural language layer, transformer models, in order to make everything conversational, make everything accessible by natural language. Yeah, so this is basically our tech stack. And this is the founding team behind cognitx. It's me and my colleague Griselda. We have both studied at TU Darmstadt computer science, and that's why also cognitx is based at TU Darmstadt. And yeah, so we have both machine learning backgrounds, so to say. Yeah, so thank you very much for your attention, and let's stay connected.
Servus. Ich wollte fragen, das Hauptproblem von KI ist doch immer noch, man weiß doch nie, was es sagt, ob es auch stimmt. Woher weiß ich das dann bei euch, dass es stimmt, was die KI mir da antwortet?
Yeah, I think your question is directed to the problem hallucination. We have provided a mechanism that either your question executes or not. It's a binary system, and there's no gray area in between that. So your question either is executed in the end to the data source to grab the data or not. And basically, we also provide the thought process, like how AI came to the conclusion, so that you can see what is executed exactly and what's the thought process behind AI, so that you can also build the confidence behind that.
Yeah, so I'm asking my question in English as well. How much work have you done with open source models in your stack? So like the new Llama 8B, I think didn't work. You haven't made the presentation with that in mind, but do you have achievements doing this with open source models, smaller open source models, maybe even quantized versions? So how's your experience with that?
Thank you. Thank you. Very good question. Yeah, we use, our stack is completely open source. And of course, we use, in the transformer layer, we use large language models on top. Of course, the decoder part of the transformer, like for the LLM. And Llama 3 now is very new. It's just a couple days, 3 days old. We are testing it, but yes, we use open source models on top, and but not only. We basically have used also quantized versions of it, up to 4 bits quantized, in order to kind of really compress it very well. And then, because running of these models is a huge problem in production, and it takes like, if you deploy everything, it will you risk to get a bill like $2,000 to $20,000 like euros a month for GPUs usage. That's why you need to compress it a bit. Yeah.
So for the LLMs, have you ever compared the open source versions to commercial LLMs like GPT or anything else like that? And have you like compared them and seen different results? Also quality differences?
Yeah, we have experimented with GPT-4, of course. I can say till a few months ago, the gap was big. Now it's shrinking. Still, GPT-4 is ahead, but the gap is shrinking, and you can see that. We can see that in our systems. When we build the pipelines, like the query pipelines, we try to diversify the way, the way you query these models, and try to query the models in a specialized way, not like querying the same model for everything, you know. So, and we aggregate this basically this knowledge into our query pipelines.
Hello. Can you talk about your customers? Are there any companies already using your system, and what are they doing with it?
Yeah, thank you. We are at the moment working with 2 customers. One is a commercial bank, is the Santander Bank. So they have credit data coming from, generated at every minute, basically from online applications, and these credit PDFs, let's say, so land like thousands a day at the bank's environment, and they need a way to simply ask questions upon those data, like how many applications did I get today? What's the average interest rate? Which products were asked to be booked, basically, and getting such insights. And we are working with them. We started with a batch of 500 documents in the beginning, and it worked fine, and now they are using it. The second is a construction company. They have telemetric data, like machine-generated data. It's a bit on the other side, so it's more on the IoT side. So they generate this data, and they want to make sense of it. Like if there is some health check problems of machines, what's the speed of processes and so on. So mostly on the operational side.
So my question is related to access management. How do you make sure that the model accesses only data that is meant for the user who uses it?
Thank you. I'll have to go a few slides back for this. I'm sorry. Yeah. So this is the point when you have basically created the connectors. You have connected cognitx to your data source, to your data sources, and then you build the so-called collections or topics, where you can grab a few data from different data sources into such a bubble called a topic or a collection. You can give it a description. This collection is meant to give insights about these topics. And then you give permissions to the users you want in this system, right, in this collection. And in the end, cognitx will access those collections. And when it accesses those collections, it will keep in mind that only such users will do this. It's not the AI that does that, in fact. It's an underlying system that prevents to give additional data to AI to process. That's the point. So it's a step of the setup console where you do it.
Follow-up question. Like, if you have a very, very big data set, how do you make sure that the request reaches the specificity that is needed? Like, how do you make sure that you get the actual data that you need?
Yeah, we have, programmatically speaking, we have built constraints that such constraints should be met. Otherwise, the ingestion fails. So it's still a binary option. It's either met or it fails, and you won't go forward, basically, to the next setup step. So because it will show the reasons why it failed.
Yes, so now that you said you're using open source LLMs, do you have any point on cost perspectives? Like, of course, hosting your own LLMs can be pretty expensive, as you also said. Is there like a break point where you say at this point you might be more advantaged by using OpenAI's APIs for models, or when does it actually become useful to have your own models? Is that just like a configuration thing, or is it actually also a cost thing?
If speaking from a cost perspective, for 1 million tokens that you ask closed source models like GPT, it's if I'm not wrong, it's like around $90-something, right? And if you host your own open source models, you can bring that down to something like between $4 and $5 for 1 million tokens. So in terms of cost, it's cheaper hosting your own, but then that should justify these big numbers of token consumptions. Otherwise, it's not worth. We add this in the price because we operate with enterprises, and of course we should calculate the GPU's usage in the price. So yeah, definitely.
You have mentioned that ChatGPT is still ahead, and how you are making sure that your product will be more significant than ChatGPT.
Yeah, ChatGPT is still ahead in the general knowledge, of course. We are trying to orient our solution towards niche or more specific specialized domains, like for instance for data analysis. And the way we operate it, like it amplifies the knowledge of the model itself, and like we haven't done really important benchmarks here, but we can match with the GPT-4's knowledge in niche domains from what we're doing, because we've specialized that for niche domains, like for data analysis.
Yeah, do you use the pre-trained models, the open source pre-trained models, or do you fine-tune it for this special job it's doing?
Yeah, fine-tuning is part of our product. It happens, of course, under the hood. Yeah, so just maybe technically, we basically compose the deltas on top of the model, which specialize the model to work in a specific direction. Important here is the data quality. It's a very, very important step, and with fewer data but high quality, you can achieve really, really amazing stuff.
So I guess sorry, just one last question.
So then for the pre-training that you do yourself, do you do that on like a per collection basis or per user basis, or is that one general thing that you have for your entire company structure?
It's project-based because one project consists of many collections, and it's project-based, basically. It's like, POC-based, so to say.
So, thank you very much. Warm applause for him, please.